Most people will never be rich, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've been trained to think like peasants. You've been told that wealth is earned through hard work, patience, and doing what you love. But that's a fairy tale crafted by the powerful to keep you obedient. Machiavelli's truth is far colder, sharper, and infinitely more useful. Wealth is taken, not given. As we speak, the world's resources are not distributed by effort. They are seized by strategy. Every empire, every dynasty, every fortune from the Medici to Musk was built not by moral virtue, but by a deep understanding of power dynamics. Machiavelli, writing in the heart of Renaissance Florence, understood this better than anyone. In The Prince, he exposed the sacred deception of society, that morality is often a mask for control, and virtue is a weapon of the weak. Think about your own life. How many times have you worked harder than someone wealthier than you? How many times have you watched mediocrity rise while talent sinks? That isn't random, it's structure. You've been participating in a game where the rules were designed to make sure you never win. When I first realized this, I was furious. I had been a good man, diligent, respectful, honest. I believed that if I simply did good work, I'd be rewarded. Instead, I was overlooked, underpaid, and quietly replaced by someone bolder, hungrier, less concerned with fairness. That day, I understood. The world does not pay for goodness, it pays for leverage. Look through history. Julius Caesar did not become Rome's most powerful man because he was the kindest senator. He became great because he understood perception. He borrowed money, he didn't have to buy influence he couldn't afford, and turned it into power he could never lose. Rockefeller didn't get rich because he sold oil. He got rich because he controlled oil. Napoleon didn't conquer Europe through luck. He did it through calculated audacity, through the art of appearing inevitable. Each of these men shared one trait: strategic ruthlessness. Not cruelty, that's for amateurs. True ruthlessness is precision. It's knowing when to act, how to manipulate momentum, and how to appear harmless while building dominance. Machiavelli's wisdom is this: it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. In wealth terms, it means to be respected for your power, not admired for your purity. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Getting rich is not about talent, nor timing, nor even intelligence. It's about psychological warfare. The battlefield isn't the stock market or your workplace. It's your own conditioning. The real enemy is the voice that says, play fair. Because every moment you play fair in an unfair system, someone else is using your virtue as their ladder. Are you starting to see it? The reason you're not rich isn't that you're unlucky. It's that you're still playing by moral rules in an amoral world. You've mistaken obedience for loyalty, and loyalty for safety. But safety is the slowest poison of them all. So here's the question. If everything you've been taught about success was designed to keep you dependent, what would you do if you finally stopped believing it? In the next section, I'll show you how I personally broke free from the illusion of how I went from being a pawn to becoming a strategist. But first, I want you to sit with this truth. You are not broke because of the system. You are broke because you have not yet mastered it. As Machiavelli warned his prince, men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. Money isn't just about survival, it's about power. And power, once tasted, becomes the only true freedom. Ask yourself, are you ready to stop worshiping fairness and start studying power? Because until you do, wealth will remain a dream for someone else. There was a night that burned itself into my memory when everything I believed about success died. I was 28, sitting in a dimly lit office long after everyone had gone home. My tie was loosened, my hands trembling over a report I'd spent weeks perfecting. I had done everything right, followed orders, met deadlines, smiled at the right people. That report was my masterpiece, and it was about to make my boss look brilliant. The next morning, he presented it as his own. I stood there, watching the room, applaud him for my work. No mention of me, no credit, just silence. And in that silence, I realized something chilling. I had confused loyalty with strategy. That betrayal was my awakening. It wasn't personal, it was Machiavellian. He had used my obedience to strengthen his throne. While I was trying to earn respect, he was an engineering power. That day, I made a decision that would alter the course of my life. Never again would I play the game blindfolded. At first, I blamed him. I called him immoral, dishonest. But over time, as I devoured the prints and biographies of men who shaped history, I realized he was simply playing the game as it's meant to be played. Caesar manipulated the Senate. Napoleon manipulated loyalty. Rockefeller manipulated perception. And my boss, well, he manipulated me. The difference was not morality, it was awareness. I began studying power like a soldier studies war. I read about the Medicis of Florence, how they built empires not through brute force but through influence, controlling art, politics, and banking in a single strategic web. They weren't good men, they were effective men. Machiavelli himself worked for them, observing firsthand how control is built through appearances. In those months, I tested my first principle of power. Visibility is currency. While others buried themselves in work, I learned to make my work visible to the right people. I started speaking in meetings. Not too much, just enough to plant ideas subtly. I began aligning with those who already had influence, not those who merely talked about ambition. Within a year, the same executives who once ignored me began to echo my language, my phrases, my perspective. It wasn't magic. It was strategic audacity. But here's the uncomfortable part. It felt unnatural. I had been trained to equate humility with virtue. To self-promote felt like vanity. To maneuver felt like betrayal. Yet, when I looked at history, I saw a different pattern. Alexander the Great didn't wait for recognition. He declared his destiny. Churchill didn't politely ask to lead Britain. He seized the narrative when others hesitated. And every Machiavellian mind understood this. The world respects assertion, not apology. You have to feel the burn of injustice before you can handle the fire of power. That betrayal in the office wasn't a tragedy, it was initiation. It stripped me of illusions. It taught me the first rule of wealth creation: don't seek permission to win. Now I ask you, how many times have you played fair, only to watch others advance through cunning? How many ideas have you buried, waiting for recognition that never came? And more importantly, how much longer will you keep waiting? You can't outwork a strategist. You can only outthink them. The average man prays for fairness. The strategist manufactures opportunity. When I stopped needing the system's approval, I started bending it. Within 2 years, I had moved from overlooked employee to silent influencer, not through deception, but through strategic positioning. Remember this: every great transformation begins with betrayal. Yours might not come from a boss, it might come from a friend, a partner, or even yourself. But when it does, don't mourn it. Study it. Extract its lesson. Because every betrayal is a message you've been playing by the wrong rules. So, are you willing to feel the discomfort that comes with awareness? Are you ready to stop expecting fairness and start commanding respect? Because if you are, you've already taken your first Machiavellian step toward wealth. Let's be brutally honest. The world you live in is not a meritocracy. It's a monarchy of influence. And if you want to rise, you must stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a ruler. Every wealthy person you admire, from kings to CEOs, has mastered one truth. Machiavelli immortalized in The Prince: the ends justify the means when the ends are power itself. This idea terrifies the ordinary mind. We're taught to believe that integrity guarantees success. But integrity without leverage is impotence disguised as virtue. Machiavelli never said to abandon morality. He said to weaponize it. Use it when it serves you. Discard it when it enslaves you. The blueprint of empire begins with understanding the hierarchy of control. Perception controls belief. Belief controls behavior. Behavior controls wealth. Every empire in history mastered these three layers. Julius Caesar's rise wasn't military genius alone. It was narrative manipulation. Before crossing the Rubicon, he didn't just move troops, he moved minds. He convinced Rome that he was its savior, not its usurper. Napoleon did the same, turning defeat into destiny through language and spectacle. Even the Medici family, those shadow kings of Florence, understood that the pen, the painting, and the loan agreement were all instruments of the same symphony, control. Machiavelli served under them. He saw how influence was crafted not with swords, but with symbols. He learned that to maintain power, one must appear virtuous while acting strategically. As he wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." That is not cynicism. It is realism. This principle explains why modern society rewards illusion. Think of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or Steve Jobs. Each empire built empires not merely on innovation, but on myth. They made themselves the story of the heroic face of technology, progress, or exploration. They created an aura that magnetized capital and loyalty. That is, Machiavellian brilliance disguised as branding. But here's where most people fail. They chase wealth as consumers, not creators. They look at money as the goal, instead of power as the infrastructure. Machiavelli's wisdom flips that. He teaches that money is the symptom of power correctly applied. You don't chase it. You attract it through dominance of perception and control of leverage points. Let me illustrate. In Renaissance Florence, the Medici didn't mine gold. They controlled the flow of gold through banking and papal influence. They lent money to kings, controlled art commissions, and installed popes who favored their interests. Their wealth wasn't in coins, it was in obligation. Their genius lay in the invisible leash they placed on those who owed them. Modern wealth follows the same principle. Look at venture capitalists, influencers, or political donors. They don't work for money. They make money work for them. They manipulate systems that others blindly trust. That's not evil, that's strategic evolution. But this brings us to the moral crossroads that terrifies most. Can you operate with integrity and still play the game? Machiavelli would answer, yes, if you define integrity as effectiveness. Morality is subjective. Effectiveness is measurable. The question isn't, is it right, but does it work? Because in the end, history remembers results, not intentions. So ask yourself, are you living by your values or someone else's? Are you serving the game or scripting it? Machiavelli's world was filled with assassinations, betrayals, and shifting alliances. Yet his insights remain timeless because human nature hasn't evolved. We still crave power. We still disguise ambition as altruism. And the few who understand this truth, those who can balance appearance with intention, will always rise. Here's the uncomfortable conclusion. Wealth doesn't reward the kind. It rewards the calculating. Not the naive optimist, but the aware strategist. The true Machiavellian doesn't destroy morality. He uses it as camouflage. So, I challenge you. Observe your world this week. Watch who truly holds power where you work, live, or compete. Is it the most capable person or the most strategically positioned one? Because once you see the invisible architecture of influence, you can never unsee it. And that's when wealth begins to follow. Most people think getting rich starts with opportunity. They're wrong. It starts with psychology. The difference between the rich and the poor is not intelligence. It's mental architecture. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Translation: your thoughts are your advisors. If you keep the wrong ones, you will fall. Let me be direct. Most people are mentally programmed to lose. They obey emotional impulses. They chase comfort over control, pleasure over positioning. The mind of the poor man is a democracy of chaos. The mind of the rich man is a dictatorship of focus. Wealth creation begins when you seize control of your inner court, your beliefs, your fears, your impulses, and rule them with the same ruthlessness a general commands his army. When I first began reshaping my mind, I realized how many invisible scripts were sabotaging me. Don't be too ambitious. Money changes people. Patience pays off. Each of these phrases sounds harmless, even virtuous, but they're poisonous. They were designed to domesticate potential. Machiavelli would call them tools of control, the very instruments rulers use to pacify the masses. I tested this theory. Over 6 months, I tracked every decision I made around money, every hesitation, every rationalization. What I found was horrifying. 80% of my decisions came from fear disguised as logic. Fear of risk, fear of rejection, fear of failure. I wasn't competing with others. I was being conquered by hesitation. So, I created what I now call the Machiavellian Mind Model 3, psychological shifts that every wealthy strategist must make, from emotion to calculation. Never act from feeling. The rich don't react, they respond. Rockefeller once said, "I always tried to turn every disaster into an opportunity." That's not optimism, that's controlled detachment. When panic hits the herd, the strategist sharpens his knife. From morality to effectiveness, the masses ask, "Is it right?" The Machiavellian asks, "Does it work?" During the Second Punic War, Hannibal didn't win by being fair, he won by being effective. Crossing the Alps with elephants wasn't moral or immoral. It was impossible until he did it. That's the mindset of conquest. Redefine what's possible through audacity. From victimhood to leverage. Most people blame systems, bosses, or economies. The strategist looks for pressure points. If you can't change the system, control the part of it that others ignore. Like the Medici, find the lever everyone touches but no one owns and owns it. Once I internalized these shifts, everything changed. I stopped chasing income and started building influence assets, relationships, skills, and information networks that multiplied my reach. Within a year, I made more from strategic collaborations than I had earned from 3 years of hard labor. But don't take my word for it, history repeats this truth endlessly. Take Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War centuries before Machiavelli. He taught that victory is won before battle through positioning. The same is true in wealth. You don't win when you make money. You win when you've positioned yourself to receive it effortlessly. Or look at Napoleon. He famously said, "Men are moved by 2 levers only, fear and self-interest." The rich understand this instinctively. They motivate themselves through vision and consequence. They set goals so costly in failure that success becomes the only logical outcome. Now pause and ask yourself, what mental scripts still own you? Whose voice tells you to play safe? How much of your caution is wisdom, and how much is disguised fear? If you truly want wealth, you must stage a mental coup d'etat. Overthrow the inner peasant. Crown the strategist. Every belief that doesn't serve your empire executes it. Every thought that hesitates exiles it. Because until you command your psychology, every business strategy, investment, or idea will collapse under your own mental rebellion. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop seeking wealth as validation and begin seeking power over yourself, money begins to follow you like a loyal army. By now, you understand that wealth begins in the mind, but if it stays there, it dies there. Ideas without systems are just fantasies. The Machiavellian knows this. Power must be institutionalized. Whether in politics, war, or wealth, the structure determines the survival of the strategy. Machiavelli wrote, "He who builds on the people builds on mud." What he meant was that simple emotion is unstable. To last, Power must sit on structure, not sentiment. Every dynasty understood this truth. Caesar had the legions, the Medici had their banks, Rockefeller had Standard Oil. In every era, the rich didn't just make money, they built machines that printed it. Let me tell you the moment I discovered this for myself. I was freelancing, trading time for income, working 70-hour weeks. I was self-employed, which is just another word for self-exploited. Every dollar required my presence, every client, my obedience. Then one day, my mentor looked me in the eye and said, "You don't own a business, you own a job that can fire you." It hit me like a sword through armor. I had mistaken the activity for progress, business for control. I was rich in effort, poor in leverage. So I made a ruthless decision to turn my labor into a system. Within 6 months, I began documenting every process I performed, every client interaction, every repetitive task. I automated what I could, delegated what I couldn't, and eliminated what didn't move the needle. That was my first act of institutionalization. I was no longer working in the business I was designing. This is the Machiavellian truth. The rich don't sell time, they sell structure. Now, let's back this with history. When John D. Rockefeller built Standard Oil, he wasn't just selling oil, he was building control. He used vertical integration to dominate every level of production: wells, refineries, distribution, and railroads. It wasn't just business, it was war. He once said, "Competition is a sin," and in that one sentence, he revealed the psychology of empire. Eliminate randomness, eliminate risk, eliminate rivals. The same principle applies to modern wealth. Systems replace emotions. Processes replace panic. When you build a system that works without your constant involvement, you create autonomous power. That's why empires outlive emperors. So, how do you build your own? Here's the framework of a modern Machiavellian wealth structure. Control your input channels. Stop depending on permission. Whether through audience, clients, or capital, create direct access to your resources. In the Renaissance, the Medici controlled the papal purse. Today, you control your digital leverage. Own the platform, or you'll always rent your reach. Multiply through systems. Identify the repeatable patterns in your value creation, then scale them. Automation is the modern version of feudal land. It works while you sleep, and it grows while you plan. Protect through diversification of power. Never rely on one stream, one ally, or one strategy. Caesar had armies. He also had propaganda. The modern strategist diversifies not out of fear, but dominance, each system reinforcing another. As I built my systems, something extraordinary happened. My income no longer fluctuated with my mood. My time became elastic. I stopped chasing clients, and they began chasing me. The system had become the servant of my will. But remember, systems are not soulless. They are extensions of strategy. Build them with precision, or they will enslave you. The same way a ruler must trust his generals but monitor them, you must trust your systems but audit them. Never let the machine own the master. Now, ask yourself, where in your life are you still trading time for tokens? Which of your efforts could be replicated, automated, or delegated today? How much of your wealth potential is trapped inside work that doesn't scale? Because here's the Machiavellian law of prosperity. If your presence is required for profit, you're not powerful, you're replaceable. Power is when your empire works while you plan your next conquest. Ask yourself in your life right now, what do you own versus what owns you? Who depends on you, and on whom do you depend? Are you the architect of your system or a piece inside someone else's? Remember, in every age, power flows to the designer, not the participant. The rich don't adapt to systems, they construct them. As we speak, the world is being rebuilt by those who understand this. AI, politics, media, finance. all shifting toward centralization of influence. The question is, will you watch it happen, or will you carve your place in the blueprint? Every story must end, but the question is how yours will. Most people die twice, once when their body gives up, and once long before that, when they surrender their ambition. They don't lose wealth, they lose will. They trade power for comfort, courage for excuses. And at the end, they whisper the same pathetic words, "I could have." But Machiavelli would tell you regret is the tax of the timid. As we stand here, at the final stage of this journey, I'll remind you of the simplest, most brutal truth. You are already in a war. Every day, your mind, your time, and your potential are being negotiated between forces that either empower or enslave you. There is no neutrality. If you are not building your own empire, you are building someone else's. So the question is no longer if you'll fight, it's for whom. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince must learn how not to be good." What he meant wasn't evil. It was evolution. Goodness without power is theater. It makes you lovable, but it keeps you weak. You've seen this truth your whole life. Honest workers crushed by corporate kings, talented artists forgotten while manipulators thrive, kind men watching ruthless strategists rise. History doesn't remember those who waited, only those who acted. Alexander didn't wait for permission to conquer. Caesar didn't wait for the Senate's approval to cross the Rubicon. Rockefeller didn't wait for competitors to agree before monopolizing oil. They moved when others hesitated. They acted when others debated. And they won because they dared to choose power over peace. The truth is, wealth and power will never come to those who try. They come to those who decide. You either live by design or die by default. You either command time or become its victim. You either build systems or get buried by them. I know the cost of this path. It's not cheap. You will lose people. You will offend the small-minded. You will be misunderstood, envied, or attacked. You will walk alone for seasons, while others mock you for building what they can't even see. But one day, they'll call you lucky. And when that day comes, you'll remember this moment, the moment you stopped apologizing for wanting more. The moment you realize wealth isn't greed, it's freedom. So here's your final challenge. Your Machiavellian ultimatum: audit your dependencies. Write down every area of your life where you rely on another man's system. Your job, your social media, your income stream. Then circle one. Build independence from it in the next 6 months. The first act of rebellion is ownership. Engineer a network of leverage. Reach out to 3 individuals more powerful than you, not to beg to offer strategic value. The rich don't network for friends, they build alliances. Be the ally that multiplies their advantage, and watch how quickly power circles pull you in. Publicly declare your intent. Make a promise so big it terrifies you. Write it, speak it, burn it into your identity. The moment you make it public, you give it weight, and you give yourself no retreat. As Sun Tzu said, place your army on death ground, and you will live. Time is running out. The world is shifting faster than most can comprehend. As we speak, AI is creating new empires, economies are redistributing power, and visibility is the new currency. You can either be the architect of this new order or its casualty. The Machiavellian doesn't wait for opportunity. He manufactures it. He doesn't pray for wealth. He strategizes it. And when fortune tests him, he smiles because he's prepared for war. So I ask you, directly, are you the type of person who will keep watching others rise, or the one who decides that from this day forward, your life will bend to your will? You have one life, one battlefield, one chance to command your fate. Choose power, choose mastery, choose an empire. Because the quickest and surest way to get rich, as Machiavelli taught, is not to chase money, but to command men, systems, and yourself. And the moment you do, wealth becomes inevitable.